Okay. Good morning. First thing I should discuss with you is about this final project presentation. Okay. For final project presentation, if you start from our course schedule page, you can click the final presentation sign up, this button, or you click the project presentation schedule. They actually link to the same page. Okay. If you click this page, you are going to get into this 2016 CS512 course project presentation schedule. Okay. This schedule, everybody who officially registered the course can get in and can update it. That means you can, if you say log in, you will be able to update this page. The reason we set up this way is you will be able to upload your project title, your presentation, your link to the slides, and link to the final project report. Of course, link to the final project report will be due on May 10th. Okay, that means our May 9th is the last day we present all the final project. But you still get one whole day for you to revise it, especially when you present. You got some feedback from the classmates or from the TA or instructor. Okay, you basically, you still have one whole day. You can revise it and finally submit it, including your final slides and your final link project. Okay, that means your slides, even you present it, you still have a chance to update it. Okay. The final evaluation for both instructors and for students, for your classmates, they will be based on your final version. That means no matter you present on Thursday or you present on Monday, actually they are the same because the due date is exactly the same moment. The evaluation is not based on whether you submit on Thursday, May 5th, or you submit on Monday, May 9th, okay? Because the final submission is May 10th. Okay? So the current schedule is we got May 9th completely filled up. Okay? Every slot is taken. Actually, we have one slot has 6 presentations, just because originally we set up this one. We can make a little bigger, but I found the previous one, the May 5th, we still have a few open slots. That means not filled up yet. Okay, so anybody on Monday, May 9th, you want to move to May 5th, Thursday, you are highly encouraged. So we get a little load balance. Okay, load balance means you don't have to work too heavy on May 9th on Monday, but you can, present earlier. Like we said, even you present earlier, you actually get a few extra days to revise. So you may even get some benefit instead of get a penalty. Okay, of course, this gives you a little less time to prepare for your presentation. But I think we get a whole semester, preparing. It's not just because of 2 or 3 days will make a real difference. So if you are well prepared, you are encouraged to do it earlier. Okay. Then once you do it earlier, finish, you probably will have a chance to work on revision or working other things. Maybe you have other course to finish, so you can have more time. Right now, I'm going to distribute, this one again. Okay, the first thing is you check whether the information registered by you or by me, I later typed it in, is correct, accurate. Another thing is if your group want to move ahead, move to Thursday, May 5th, you are encouraged to cross your name. In the later day, you move on to the earlier day. The earlier day, I put every slot, I only got 4 presentations, but our time allows 5 presentations. So if you like, more people want to move to the front, you are encouraged. Okay, I'll distribute this. If you think everything is correct, you just check it. It simply says, I finalized, that's my time. But if you want to move, feel free. Okay. So this is about our final presentation. One thing I also should mention is we do have 1 or 2 students, based on discussion with me, they still feel whether they will be able to finally deliver a quality final report. So there are 2 cases I may give you as incomplete. You can work in the summer. There's one thing is you start really late. You just really, because you change the topic a few times, until now you're still not clear whether the topic can deliver quality results. You're really worried about your grade. Okay, you can discuss with me. Another one could be you think you can have a lot of things to do. You will generate a really high quality paper, but now it's not mature. You really want to work in the summer. You can generate really high quality result. You also can postpone it. Okay, so but for either of these 2 cases, I need a written petition. That means you have to write down what is the project, what is register name, what is the reason. You still have to say what is your project, okay, the project title, abstract. But you need to write down what are good reasons you want to postpone it. Okay. Only the written one will be taken. If you just talk to me, you say, I don't want to present anymore, that's not a count as a formal request. You have to give me a written one, and finally I agree, I sign it, so we have a mutual agreement. It simply says, I give you incomplete, I have intention to change it at the end of the summer. Okay. But if you do not get a written request and my permission, I give you incomplete, it means you're really incomplete. I may not take care to regrade it if you submit a later one. Okay. That means we have a mutual agreement, then you can do it. Okay. So that's about our course, all the final things. You probably can see clearly we have assignment due, we have second midterm exam, and we have final project. Okay. So hopefully you get all things well prepared. Then for the second midterm, the coverage is starting the end of the first midterm. That means we start from the text mining. Okay. We're going to cover to the end of this lecture. But all the student presentation, including your survey report, even we present in the class, those material will not be covered. Okay. So that's, you just make sure it's clear. And the midterm exam, the style is the same. That means you are allowed or encouraged to bring 1 cheat sheet, okay? And then the remaining is closed book. Okay. Now we will continue our discussion on mining moving object trajectories. Okay. Moving object trajectory means you get lots of things moving, but you want to summarize them. You may find patterns. Okay. One way to summarize, I mentioned, is a T pattern. The T pattern was done by the Italian University Pisa group. Okay. What they do is they, based on grade structure, that means they partition the map into small grades. Okay. And each grade, they actually sign a letter. Okay. Then they, based on the time, for example, this grade, this particular time, they have a position. For example, the traffic is busy. They can put the particular time, particular grade as a busy one, get a letter. And then they measure again. Suppose they measure another one is busy, and they may find something in the middle. They find a regression line or trace. Okay. In that way, they actually can find the busy traffic through the city at a different time, so they can find patterns. So this kind of pattern called trajectory pattern or T-pattern. Okay. We also said to study moving objects like animals on convoys or something moving. So there are several interesting algorithms. One called flock. Flock means, you get M entities within a circular region. That means you find a disk. Suppose your disk is, say, 200 meters. Okay. You take this disk. You find within this disk there are M entities, like M ship inside. Okay. Then you find, along with time, like every consecutive region, you still find those ships. Okay, those they are still moving, just in a different circle. Okay, that means this circle, you get into the other circle, they find a consecutive region, then you can say this is a flock. Okay. The convoy means your circle is too rigid. They just based on density-based clusters. That means they just say this part is dense, they form a cluster, they see how these clusters moving in the M, in the some, like a K consecutive regions. Okay. But another proposal by our student, Zhenhui Li, Jessie Li, she worked out is relax this one, in the sense, not all the animals, they move, it's like a convoy, exactly the same time in the K regions. That means she allows at certain snapshots, they could be very far apart. Okay. Then as long as you take those snapshots, you find there are a good proportion of them, they move together. In the middle, you probably can see they could be far, sparse. This is more like you allow the animals to graze. Okay, some animal move, the other animal may still graze. So at a certain time, you take snapshots, they are far apart. Okay, but overall, you see they are moving because you take snapshots, you find a good portion of them, they are synchronized. Okay, that one called swarm. Okay, of course, to find swarm is more challenging than finding convoys and flocks. Okay, because the convoy, you take any snapshots, they are together. Okay, but a swarm, you take snapshots certain time, they are very far apart, you cannot find patterns. Okay, but you count when they are together at a certain portion of snapshots, you will say they are moving together. Okay, so this swarm. Actually, she showed in the real animal case, she showed you really can find much more like swarms than the convoys and the flocks. It simply says you require them all the time, they move together. Actually, it's not realistic. Okay? But you find at certain snapshots that you can detect they move together. That's more real. Okay. Then there's another interesting study on trajectory called trajectory clustering, is using another approach called partition and a group, or you can say partition and a regroup. Okay. The general philosophy is this. Okay. This one was done by, also was done in UIC by J. Gear Lee, who was a postdoc. He got a PhD in Korea, in KAIST. Okay. Then he spent about 2 years in UIC doing research. Now he went back to KAIST. He's a professor in KAIST already. Okay. What he did is he got many papers surrounding this philosophy. This one is on clustering. He did a classification. He did a pattern analysis. He did outlier detection all along this line. But I should first just introduce you one, which is clustering. His first work is very interesting. Okay. The general philosophy is you try to find a lot of things moving together. Just give you a simple example. you may find many years of hurricanes. Okay. Remember, anybody remember Hurricane Katrina? That's actually it's 2005, I think. At that time, I did not know. I was organizing a conference in New Orleans. Okay. Actually, the time when the Katrina came, I was in another conference in Norway. Okay. Then the conference chair, the local chair, sent me email, said they have to change the location. I say, why change the location? They say there's just a hurricane just passed. I say, hurricane passed is passed. Okay, our conference in November, so why we have to change it? He said, did you know anything about Katrina? I said, no, I did not know it. I'm in Europe. He said, oh, the whole city was destroyed. Okay, so that's the case. We have to change from New Orleans to Houston. Okay, the conference finally changed to Houston. And to study Katrina or any kind of hurricane, okay, what you see is there are many years of hurricane you can do overlay. Overlay, you will be able to find a path. Of course, every year the path could be different. But if you find the paths, you overlay them, you may be able to find clusters. Okay. So this one is, you think about these, every one is 1 year hurricane. Okay. But now you get so many. Okay. Like a year actually may have many hurricanes. For example, Katrina started with K. Simply say there are many hurricanes in front already. Okay. So you overlay many hurricanes, you may be able to find a cluster of paths. But they are not going exactly the same way, going to exactly the same direction. You probably can see. Because of the air, actually, sometime the air may encounter some other torrent, they block it, they can change their direction. So you see those many years hurricane, when you do overlay, some part form clusters, okay, cluster of trajectories. But some parts, they go different directions. They finally reach different places. Okay, that's very, very typical. Okay. What he wants to do is he wants to find the clusters of those trajectories. But the trajectory cluster is not clustered the whole way, okay, because the hurricane goes, they turn, they move to the other places in many different ways. Okay. So what he finally realized to cluster trajectories, finally realized you cannot cluster the whole hurricane trajectory because too long, it changes too much. Okay. What he can do is he can cluster part of it. But how to cluster part of it? What he invented a method called partition and regrouping. What is partition? That means you take any single hurricane path. You chop them into several fragments. Well, how do you chop them? Okay. He chopped them basically based on minimum description length, this principle. That means he tries to use the smaller number of fragments to represent your whole path. Okay, because the smaller your description length, your number of bytes to represent this hurricane path will be smaller, will be minimal. Okay. And what he did, you can see this. For example, you see this path. Okay. Of course, you can use every point to recommend, or use very tiny fragments to represent, but your representation cost is too high. Okay. He tried to minimize. But if you minimize it, for example, this P1, you want to directly using P4, you running to the risk, you get more errors, more deviations, right? So finally, you have to balance, use a smaller number, but a loyal to the real one. Okay, so he finally balanced this. You know, every time you get a sharp turn, like from here to here, you get a sharp turn, you must break it. Otherwise, you lose too much. You lose too much information. Okay. That means he wants to preserve the closest information, use minimum number of points to present it. Okay. That means he tries to use minimum length description principle to chop each path into a reasonable number of fragments. Okay. Once he chopped this into many, many fragments, you probably see you can regroup these fragments longer in case they can be clustered together. Okay, that means you try to group them to be longer paths. You think they are the same if they can form good clusters. That means you will find many of them, they move in the same direction. You can recluster them. Okay. So his philosophy, chopping, regrouping, and finding the maximum part they overlap. You find a maximum cluster, okay, those trajectories. The remaining one, of course, if you can find smaller cluster, you will be able to find some smaller ones as well. Okay. So he used this, shows many hurricanes. He can cluster them into reasonably good paths. He actually collected 52 years hurricanes in North America. Okay. And 52 years, there are many, because every year there are many hurricanes. So there are really hundreds of them. And he can find many good ways to do clustering. Clustering, of course, one thing you do good clustering is you may predict likely where the hurricane may land on the land, right? Because that's a part, it's very dangerous. You may destroy the city, okay, or destroy many things. So that's one thing. Another thing is he used this to use animals. There are lots of animal data, animal movements, and he can find very good traces for animals, wandering around the forests. Actually, we work with animal scientists. They actually told us to get animal movements. Actually, it's pretty interesting, but very dangerous. What they do is they really go down to Amazon. Okay, they catch the tiger, or how to catch that tiger. They actually describe with us how to catch a tiger. They basically say that when the tiger came, they used a gun, but the gun just basically make the tiger sleep. Okay, they use a gun, shoot the tiger falls asleep. Then they dig up they dig up a pit, and the tiger fall in. Then they use the gun. Those kind of sleeping ones, they shoot the tiger. Some they use if the tiger really in the pit, they actually need to use a needle to get put tiger into sleep. Then they put a sensor in. Then they dig the pit to make the pit a little flat. The tiger, when the tiger wake up, it can walk out. Okay, it can climb out. So then the tiger carry this sensor can give the signal about a year. Okay, so then they can really get where the tiger moves. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. And catch the eagle and the bird is much more complicated. Okay, so they actually discuss with us how to put sensors on the body of the animals. Actually, it's not that easy, but they do have lots of trajectory data, so you can analyze. Okay, so that's a still Yellowstone National Park. You probably can see the chemical, get those mud, swamps. It looks quite gorgeous, but it's very smelly, okay, because of the chemicals. Okay. Now we get into another movement pattern analysis called semantics. I should put S. It's a semantics-rich movement. Okay. Semantics-rich movement means for human, especially nowadays, many people are carrying like cell phones, or some equipment, GPS related stuff, you will be able to find many movement patterns, okay? Like a geocoded tweets, or you have the GPS for the cars. Actually, the GPS for the cars is pretty interesting. I went to Chicago to one company. They actually show me the real-time movement for almost all the cities in the world. On their screen, they show me Actually, say this one is Chicago. This is near our building. The building is pretty high. I actually watch there where traffic is heavy on their map. You watch down. The traffic is really heavy, so it's very accurate. Okay. Then they show us this one is in South America. This one is in Europe. Exactly the situation, the traffic situation. They do the real time, monitoring. How they do the monitoring? Actually, it's pretty interesting. They say there are many cars now have GPS device. The GPS device actually sending signals. But you have to identify there are lots of signals they sent. You have to automatically remove a lot of noise. Just to give you a simple example. You see the highway. By the highway, there are lots of parking lots. Okay. The parking lots have many cars. They just got in. They haven't shut down their car yet. They are sending the signals. So you see there are lots of signals. They are very dense, but those part is not a traffic. It's just parking lot. Okay. So there are many such things. You have to automatically filter out those noise. You finally can get a real traffic. They have lots of algorithms doing this. Okay. But the interesting thing is you may want to find the city, the people, how they work. You want to find a semantic-wise. It will make sense. For example, you may find patterns like this. A lot of people start from home, go to Starbucks, then go to office, go to restaurant, go to cafe, then go to restaurant again, and go to bar. Okay. Suppose you want to find these patterns. Okay. But the interesting thing is the pattern is not automatic. The reason is people, you say start from home. Home could be very scattered at different places. And the Starbucks or office also could be different. Different people have different office. They may go to different Starbucks. Even you try to find this pattern, the geolocation and the semantic role of the location, like this is a restaurant, this one is an office building. There are many. Okay. You have to link them together in order to find the patterns. Otherwise, just give you a simple example. You go to State Emperor Building, okay, Emperor State Building. Okay. You go down there, you will see lots of people, tourists taking pictures or something. But there are lots of people doing tweets. It's inside the building. They have some classrooms or some office rooms, some bars or some restaurants. There are so many people tweeting. If you want to find, how the tourists moving from Empire State Building to the harbor or to some different places, you have to figure out those noise. So that simply says you need to find, even you want to find a sequential pattern, you have to thinking about semantics as well. Okay. To get the semantics, the general idea is this. You got this location, but in the meantime, you may catch some semantic information about the location and some semantic information about the tweet contents. For example, if you want to find out how the office people live, then the people say, let's go for lunch. Okay, that likely could be the office people instead of other people. Then you probably see they go to from the office goes to restaurant. That could be the one. But if you find the tweets, they take the pictures, they go down to the other places. That's a different semantic pattern, right? So that means what you want to mine in this case. This one actually was a pretty recent paper by Chao Zhang. Okay, he was a TA here last year. He is doing the Coursera TA. So we put other students on the TA. Last year, 2 years ago, I probably should say, he published a paper basically say how to integrate your geo pattern and semantics pattern together. I mean, you want to find the geolocation in the movement pattern, but in the meantime, you think they belong to certain semantics. And how you do it? Okay, he basically have two-step top-down approach. What is two-step top-down approach? The first approach is first finding semantics level transitions. Why? Because if you just find a movement on every one, you find a movement. Many different semantics mixed up, you just cannot find a good semantics pattern. So he first tried to find semantics pattern. For example, you may find office goes to restaurant or home go to the gym. You find these locations, they are frequent. You find this, what are the functions of this? Okay. You may find this is office, this is a restaurant. You find pattern. Then you try to partition them to find both semantics and this coarse pattern. You partition them, you find a fine-grained one. That means you find the semantic pattern may guide you to see the restaurant. Just give a simple example. Okay. Suppose you first was in the Empire State Building. If you try to find a restaurant, remember Empire State Building, there are so many restaurants. Okay. If you take all the locations, each different location as a separate one, you actually will not be able to detect the pattern. People in the lunchtime, they stay in the building, they go to different restaurants because the restaurant is so scattered. Okay. But you first find, this is Emperor Building, these are several restaurants, you find this bigger pattern. Then you can split them. Then you will be able to find, they go to restaurant, there are 5 different restaurants in this region, 3 different restaurants in the other region, they split it. So you find semantics pattern, then you get a fine-grained one with geolocation information attached to it. Okay. Then you find a fine-grained pattern in an organized way. Otherwise, you mix up many patterns, you will not be able to tell what they are doing. Okay. So that's about his method called splitter. Essentially, is you find a pattern, you finally using spatial temporal information to split them. Okay. You'll get a refined pattern, but you get a better semantics attached with those spatial patterns. Okay. This is also the national park, the Yellowstone. You probably can see there are so many places that have smoke, right? Simply said, those are chemicals, coming out from those land. Actually, the land that people say due for some very big like a volcano, okay, the giant volcano in the whole area. Okay. But that's a volcano many thousand years ago. Like they say, every 40 or 50,000 years ago there was a really big one, and this one they haven't exploded for like 60,000 years or so. They believe sometime it will start. Okay, but you never know when. Then another interesting one is finding periodic patterns. You try to find movement pattern, but some movements are quite periodical. Okay, finding periodic pattern, for example, just give you a simple example. The birds migrate from from the south part to north part and back. Usually is in the winter they fly down to the south. In the summer they fly down to the north, fly up to the north. So this migration pattern is quite important to start for animal scientists, bird scientists. Okay, I actually attended a meeting because we were working on this project on the movement pattern. Then I attend really bird scientists in the middle of the mountain, actually in the winter, in Pennsylvania. Okay, it was very unique because the first thing is they are very international. The people from Sweden, from England, from Germany, from Canada, they came together, discussing about this, and I found this is a very expensive game because all the countries come are very rich, developed countries. Okay, you cannot find anyone in developing countries just because you think about it. Each bird. Okay, you put a sensor there. Okay, that's several $1,000s. Okay, and you get a satellite to trace bird movement. It's very expensive business. Okay, actually, they themselves, the bird scientists themselves said, sometimes they have to shoot their own satellite. Okay, but how they shoot satellite? I say that's so expensive. How could you get money to shoot into satellite? They say it's piggybacking to the. Nowadays, the satellite, they claim the satellite is this. You shoot one satellite up, and then they may have several hundred tiny satellites. Okay, you shoot there, it's more like doing the flame. They can burst because a small one. It's like that one is used for your bird watching. Okay, so but the very interesting thing they want us to help is this. Anybody using smartphone, the first thing I probably should ask you, how frequent you charge. Okay, you probably say I charge every day. Okay, sometimes some people say charge even twice a day. Okay, but for birds, you get a sensor, a GPS device. How frequent they will charge? Never. Okay, you think about it. You will never be able to charge the battery again, right? So once and you cannot carry a heavy one, right? Because you carry a heavy one, bird will not be able to fly. So it's a very tiny battery, and it were supposed to last a year, a whole year. How it can be done? Okay, simple way. Use it very, very sparsely. Okay. How they use it very sparsely? They say every 24 hours, this sensor will wake up just to register latitude and longitude one point. That means every 24 hours, register only 1 point. Okay. Every 7 days or 10 days, they communicate with the satellite once. They just shoot these several bits. They shoot to the satellite. Okay. Only that way, the tiny battery, tiny sensor can last for a year. You probably understand because your cell phone, has to charge every day. The bird can never charge. Okay, the tiger can never charge. That's definitely is very clear. But that creates one challenging problem is the sparsity of data. Okay, just thinking about this. Even the bird, they come back again. Okay, suppose this Pennsylvania mountain, the bird will come back in the summer. They come back, they stay there, they go to their nest. But how frequent you can register this point? 24 hours, you get one small point. Okay, so try to find the periodicity. Okay, it's almost impossible because they never repeat. They are pretty far apart because 24 hours a bird can fly pretty far. Okay. You will never be able to identify this periodicity. They want to find the bird's regulation, right? Every year they fly, you get several years data. You get 5 years data, you overlay, you can find their real paths. But the interesting thing is, none of them you can find an overlay path, even they really stay in the same location. Okay, but how can we do that? We want to find a periodicity. Okay, then Jessie Lee, she actually worked out a very smart method and found the periodicity in a very regular way. How she could find it? Anybody can think about what is the best way? I already put some hints on the text. Can you think about what is the best way to find periodicity? Okay. She actually first used the bee as an example. Okay. Of course, nobody can put a real sensor on the bee. Okay, that's impossible, right? But she can imagine. Suppose you can trace every bee. Okay, they move. You want to find their periodicity. how do you find it? Okay, this is just a hypothesis, right? You can never put a center. But if you trace a bee, where you can find the location? The most hopeful location you can find a periodicity is in the beehive, right? Think about this. Suppose this one is a beehive. The bee will never go exactly the same route, because if you go exactly the same route, you will find the flower you already processed. So there's no way the bee will go exactly the same route. But they are going to fly back, like every day or every several hours or something. They're going to fly back to the beehive. If you want to find the location, not every location can show the periodicity, but the beehive can show, right? So if you trace the bee, flying all things, you try to use, like image processing or periodic detection. You use Fourier transform, okay, autocorrelation. You find nothing because the bee goes all the places. But suppose you say, forget all the other places because I cannot find anything, or it's very hard to find anything. I got this beehive. My sensor just to stay on the beehive. I only register the beehive. I do the Fourier transform autocorrelation only on the beehive. What you will find? Actually, you will find in and out. Suppose, just to give you a simple example. Suppose every morning when the sky is turning bright, the bee is flying out of the hive. Okay. So what you need to register is when the bee is out, okay, when the bee is back in, when the bee is out again. Okay. Can you find good periodicity? You can, because every day, 24 hours, the bee will fly out. It's reasonably punctuate. So you will say every 24 hours, I will find out, out, out. So they form a good pattern. Okay. So you will be able to use, if you only trace in the nest, not in the nest, you are going to find a very good periodicity, right? Because every 24 hours you see out, out. Okay, so that's good periodicity you catch it. So this is the one we call, if you use density-based method, find a very dense spot, okay? You focus on this dense spot. You only watch when they are out of the dense spot, when they are in this dense spot, you find a good periodicity. Okay. The same thing, she actually worked with a bird scientist, work out a good way to find birds. That's a real thing on the bird. You probably can see these are the 5 lakes. These are Atlantic Ocean. Then this probably is the North, Pole, or closer to North Pole. You can see this part is Canada, Quebec. Okay, this part likely is Michigan or some places. I'm not sure whether it's Michigan, but I think this part is still Canada. But this part I'm pretty sure is Pennsylvania. That places. When I have a mountain, meeting, they are right deep in the mountain. You can watch birds. Actually, they have a really bird watching station. You can really watch eagles or many things in the real wild. Okay. So what do you see? If you overlay multiple years of data, actually what she did is she really overlaid 3 years of data on these bird. I think it's a bald eagle. Okay. You look at those eagles, how they move. Okay. What you finally find is first, finding clusters, dense regions. Okay. Remember, even this dense region is still pretty big. Okay. Like mountains in Pennsylvania, it's still a pretty big region. Okay. You drive 30 minutes or something around the mountain. It's still quite a big region. But for the whole globe, you see the birds always staying there. In this bigger region, you find a dense spot here. Then you take the whole dense spot, you view them as a single spot. Okay. So there are so many dense things, you think they are same spot. Then what you see is when they're out, when they're in. Then you find a very, very good one. Actually, you can see her point, find these different spots. The periodicity is very regular. 360 days, just 1 or 2 days off. Okay, you find this periodicity for all those birds. Okay, very punctuated, using those very, very sparse GPS location. Okay. The reason is this, okay, you find dense spots, you do clustering. Okay. Once you do clustering, you just watch when they are in, when they are out. You do this autocorrelation, you find the periodicity in a very nice way. Okay. And she actually used this, finding the cluster, then based on the cluster finding periodicity, follow the period. You draw the regression, you draw you can say the regression curves. Okay. Then she found a very, very nice regular bird flying paths for all those birds. Okay. And you can see the periodicity. She actually plotted. This is January to March. This is April to June. You actually can see clear periodicity, like every year they come back. Okay. And actually, she actually found different years. This part in the winter, they come down here is pretty stable because the forestry is almost the same in Pennsylvania. Those forests is almost the same. Okay. Remember, even this eastern part of the U.S., you think it's very well developed, but the forest coverage is over 70%. You go to Pennsylvania, they're all covered with mountains, with mountain forests. It's very dense forest, so the birds really come back. Okay. But actually, in the northern part, every year, because of the global warming, actually they move north. The birds actually move north to find food. Okay, so they move further north over the year. So she actually can find the trace of global warming. So it's pretty interesting. Okay. The very interesting story was after the study, okay, Nokia in Europe, they hold international competition on the cell phone, the movement patterns. Okay. We have one student, Jingjing Wang, working with her. Jingjing is still here. She's going to defend her thesis next month. But she's still working here now. The interesting thing is they joined this competition. They use this algorithm. What is a competition? The competition says you find the people trace. You trace these people for over a year. Okay. Then, of course, they do not say what is a person, what is a location. The location is just the numbers. Okay. Then they want you to predict what is this person's location for the next cell phone call. You think about the people movement, they can call anytime. How could you predict the next call, where he or she is going to do the next call? Actually, you think about people, they are very regular. You think of people, they move, they go, in the weekend, they may go someplace. In the weekdays, they go to office and home. In a vacation, they may go to ski mountain. Actually, we do find every year, like they go to a pretty different place in Europe, which actually is in a ski resort. They really go down to ski every year in the weekend. Okay. So based on this, they give you a point and say, what is the next call? You have periodicity of the people. Okay. You just based on periodicity, you can predict. The prediction accuracy is pretty high. Actually, they just use this algorithm, periodicity detection algorithm. Of course, there's another algorithm how to detect the period. Okay. It could be day, it could be week, or it could be something. They win the second place in the international competition. The first place, the winner, is actually is Europe, almost their same institute, okay, EPFL. They use a very, very complicated algorithm. They actually present the algorithm. They use many, many algorithms doing ensemble. They finally win the number one. And we only use one algorithm, this algorithm, and we actually win number two. So that simply says this algorithm is very powerful. Okay. Now I'm showing you there another work. Okay. Another work is, suppose you do not know period. Like actually when we detect a bird migration, we assume the bird migration is a year. That means it's 365 days. Okay. But if you really look at people or animal or many other movements, you do not even know the period. Okay. So how do you detect the period? You have many points, but they are sparse. But you even do not know it's by day or by week or by 22 days, like a tide actually is 22 hours, right? So how could you detect them? So they are working on this problem. They found a very nice way to detect this. Is called, they guess a period, they do the overlay of the points. Okay, you can think about this. Suppose this one is a person has a cell phone, they are calling in the different hours. You can think of this is the 5, this is 18, 26, 29. They call in a different way. You can see this. And you say there's no way you can find a period. They are so irregular, right? You can see that there's no way you can find a period. Okay. So they got a very smart way to find a period. How they find it? Okay. They say, suppose I do not know period. I assume the period is t. Okay. But I can guess this t. Okay. Suppose I guess this t is 16. The 16 means what? 16 means I chop this long string. 16 hours, I chop them as one fragment. Then I overlay them. You see what happened? You can see. If you guess wrong, you overlay them, they are scattered along your whole 16 hour. Once you project them, they spread all the time. Okay. But suppose you guess is 20, and they really have 20 hours as a period. What you will find? You will see a very, very skewed, dense cluster. Think about this. Suppose I do not know, you call these 24 hours. Okay, your period is 24 hours. Suppose I came from Mars. I even do not know what is the Earth's 24 hours. But I do have your trace. What I do, if I guess it's 24 hours, suppose you every 8 o'clock you start playing your cell phone. So every 24 hours, if I match, I'll find a cluster, right? Think about this. If I project by 20, if it's 24 hours, I project to 24, I find it's repeating pattern. But if I project 20 or 16, they all scatter around. You will not be able to find it, right? Think about this as a general philosophy. Okay. So based on this thinking and observation, they work out a very smart algorithm. That means you don't have to tell me what is a period. I try. Okay. How they try, they assume the period is an integer. Okay. They try the integer, they plot the integer, they try the clustering. Okay. If they find a good clustering, they use the smallest one, which, for example, 48 or 74, you still can find a period. But 24 is the smallest one. 24, you will find the smallest one, you find a good clusters. Okay. So they got a very smart algorithm to find it. Okay. That paper also published in 2011, but the journal paper published in 2015. So that Zheng Hui Li, she now is already a professor in Penn State University. Okay. And what I introduced is two algorithms. One is on the birds. One is on the periodicity discovery. The two important chapters of her thesis. Okay, and she actually, by doing so, she got a very close collaboration with animal scientists. Her software called MoonMine. Now in the world animal scientists, they have a database called movebank.com. You can go to movebank.com. The whole word of movebank.com for movement analysis, they use her algorithm, her software. Okay, so you probably can see that's a real interesting. You do data mining, you solve the real problems. And this problem, you think it's easy. Actually, in the past, it was not automated. The animal scientists taking every piece of data, they based on their imagination, they try and error. Okay. And she actually make all these automated, okay, by a smart data mining algorithm, right? So this is about a periodicity pattern. Now we still have some minutes before we invite Himera to give the class presentation. I'm going to show you this one is done by Zhijun Yin. Interestingly, that's his defense time slides and put Twitter on the top. Now he is really probably the manager in the Twitter already. He's really working in Twitter. Okay, after getting his PhD, he first went to Morgan Stanley on the money business, but later he said he still like his hobby on Twitter, so he joined Twitter. Okay. What he was doing is he says you got lots of geotag data, like a geotag tweets, like GPS guided cars. Nowadays there are even automated driverless cars, right? In Google, actually, I visited Google in the spring break. They actually told me in California you will see many Google cars. Okay, they drive on the street. Okay, they are doing a lot of substantial testing on driverless cars. Okay, so they assume just within 10 years there are many driverless cars on the street. Okay, so now what he wants to find is he wants to find social media discussing topics. He wants to automatically finding the clusters of the topics, what they're discussing, their periodic things. There are many, many things he wants to find just using tweet and the text. Okay. He got a few very, very good papers. One paper I'm going to introduce that's Zhijun Yin. Okay, it's Geotopic Discovery and Comparison, published in 2011 WWW conference. Actually, if you see this one, Liang Chao, he's doing similar things at IBM Research. He's doing geocoded all these trajectory discovery, and the others are professors, right? What I probably should show you is this. Okay, what he was finding, which is very interesting. He was thinking tweets not only get a geolocation, but you also get a text. Okay. For example, you go to a restaurant, you tweet something. You say, oh, I'm having dim sum breakfast, have dumplings or something. You have this. When you tweet, you get a latitude, longitude. That means on the map, you have a location. Okay. And what do you want to find? Okay. What he wants to find, there are several things he shows. One thing is he wants to find like different food popular in which part of the world. Like that means he wants to find whether you're taking Japanese food or the Chinese food or Mexican food. Where are the popular place in the world they have this food? Okay, and he found a very real one. Probably before I get into this, I can show you. Yeah, this one is the food. Okay, you probably can see. This is the place the Chinese food is very popular. This is the place the Japanese food is very popular. This is Italian food is very popular. You probably, if you see this, you probably can see that's nothing strange, because the Chinese food is very popular in China or something very close. You can see this part probably Beijing, this is Shanghai, this is Canton or some places. So this is very popular. But in the meantime, you see in Europe, This part is also pretty popular, and this is the eastern part of the U.S. This is the western part of the U.S. along the coast. Okay, the California place. This is around New York place. You probably can see. And then you see Japanese food is very popular in Japan, and even in South Korea, in Taiwan, and also in eastern part and the western part of the U.S. Okay, or that part, of course, you can even say this part of Canada, right, along the west coast. So it's very interesting, and of course you can see French food, Italian food, and you actually can see the words as well. Okay. How he could find this. Okay. And also, you probably see another one he found is, you look at his algorithm. He wants to find something related to the water, related to the desert, related to mountains. And he can find where are the mountains in the U.S., where are the deserts in the U.S., where are the water in the U.S. Okay. Of course, the water not confined to ocean, but also confined to lakes. You probably can see that. Before I get into detailed algorithm, I will stop here. I will ask our student presenter, I think it's Emil. Yeah, you probably want to present. I'll give you, about 10 minutes, a little over. Okay. Okay, hopefully we'll get the right one. Okay.
I just need to click this one to change the slides, right?
Yes, yes, you just need to click that one. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we do not have that many
Hello.
from students, but I think this session
Okay. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay. So today I'll be presenting a work by Jessie Lee. Professor Han already mentioned her name in today's class. So the title of the paper that I'm going to present today is PGT Measuring Mobility Relationship Using Personal, Global, and Temporal Factors. So this is a really interesting work that involves measuring the mobility relationship between two mobile users based on their interaction in real world. More specifically speaking, this problem involves given trajectories of two users to measure their relationship strength. Now, this is more challenging compared to identifying the relationship between two users based on social networking data, where people usually communicate with their friends, or there is little or no communication with other people. But in case of location relationship, we share our location at a given time with a large number of people. So this is really challenging. This problem has a wide range of applications, not limited to the ones that I have mentioned in this slide. For example, in case of crime investigation, you can consider something like this. Okay, so you have identified a particular criminal in a crime scenario, and based on his mobility relationship with other users, you could compile a suspect list for his partners in crime and differentiate between his family members who probably aren't his partners in crimes versus his actual partners in crime and something like that. So formally putting in this problem, given a spatiotemporal data set of n users and given to input users, ij, the goal is to determine the relationship strength of I and j, which you denote by f. Okay. So this relationship is actually a function of all the meeting events between these two users. So what is a meeting event what actually qualifies between a meeting as a meeting event between these two users is something like this. So if two users are in close spatial proximity within a given time window, that qualifies as a valid meeting event. So to determine the mobility relationship between users, this work utilizes three factors: personal factor, global factor, and temporal factors. So personal factor essentially tries to capture the following concept: the same location carries different meaning for different people. So for example, consider that while Times Square is a real popular tourist destination, it can be office neighborhood for some people, right? So then again, the global factor tries to capture the popularity of a location to general public. So for example, the downtown in a city or the museum soil can be popular locations, and meeting in such popular locations are more likely to be like coincidental rather than being indicator of some sort of relationship. Meeting in a more private space, let's say in someone's home, is like a strong indicator of some sort of relationship between the users. Finally, there is this temporal factor that considers the time gap between consecutive meeting events. I'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. So for capturing personal factors, the first thing they do, they try to capture, do some sort of modeling to capture these factors. So the modeling is pretty straightforward but effective. So if a particular user visits a bunch of locations, the probability of that user visiting a particular location is captured, which is like the ratio of the user paying the number of visits that user has made to that specific location versus the number of total visits by the user. So there is a small challenge here, which is something like this. Now, the location data are actually given as points, okay? And to capture the equivalence of two locations, because we are talking about spatial proximity here, there is a couple of techniques that are used in other words. For example, one popular way is to divide the entire location space into grids, and if two users within the same grid within a given time window, they are spatially close. Another way to do it is to consider a radius from a given location and see if these two users are within that circle or not. But the problem with this sort of equivalence test is they kind of put hard constraints in terms of equivalence test. And for example, as you can see in the grid case, two users may be in the different grid, but they can be pretty close to each other in terms of location proximity. And in second case, just if someone is just outside the circle, it kind of disqualifies that meeting event. So to more effectively capture such equivalence test, PGT uses a density function, which is a better way to do it compared to this sort of hard constraints. Second, they try to capture the global background. So here they again formulate the probability for a user to visit a location, but it's different compared to the earlier one. While the earlier one was like a more personal statistic, a user visiting a specific location versus the number of times he has visited different locations. This one incorporates that given a location, what is the probability that a specific user X will visit this particular location? Okay, so it's the number of times this user has visited this location versus the number of times all user has visited this location. Okay, by doing the sum of these probabilities and multiplying that with the log thing, they actually capture the popularity of a given location, and they quantify it as the entropy of that location. Now we have already seen how they do this personal profiling and the global profiling. Now we need to bring all three factors into play. We haven't seen how they capture the temporal factor yet. So they do something like this. So first, in terms of personal background modeling, so if two users meet at a specific location, and if that location is frequently visited by one of the users, it's not given a higher weight, because it's probably the for example, consider something like this. This is an office neighborhood for some person, and some person visits this place in random. So it's more likely to be coincidental compared to where both of these users infrequently visit. So that's personal factor. Now for capturing global factor, they try to put less weight on popular locations. That because a popular location is visited by a large number of people, and there is a greater chance of two people visiting a popular location at the same time at random. Okay. So they multiply these two weights. Why they multiply these two weights rather than summing them up is because these two weights are in different ranges, and to effectively capture this, to effectively combine these two, a better way to do it is to multiply them rather than just summing them up. Finally, they consider this temporal factor. So temporal factor is something like this, that if you have two users have a sequence of meetup events, there is a good chance that these meetup events are actually a trip rather than individual meetup events. If the locations are somewhere close and they have these sequential meetup events, it's more like a trip compared to sporadic events where these are discrete meetup events. So they try to capture this using the temporal factor. They combine all these factors as weights, and finally determine if two users have a strong mobility relationship or not. So now let's look at the experiments, and so that this experiment has been done on a location-based social network where a bunch of users who are friends with each other based on their which is probably pre-identified or something, act as ground truth. This is an imbalanced data set, as you can understand, because there can be a large number of pairs of users within a data set, and a small number of them are going to be friends with each other. So to effectively understand the performance of algorithms in an imbalanced data set, it's better to use the precision recall curve. And I hope we all have fairly good understanding of precision and recall. So to simply put, if the precision and recall scores are more balanced, the algorithm is superior compared to others. So in this graph, as you can see, that PGT has a more balanced curve compared to its competing algorithms such as meeting frequency, weighted frequency, or location diversity. And it outperforms the other algorithms by quite a big mark. The second set of experiment involves involves identifying the actual significance of the different factors they consider. The question is, can they actually do better by considering less number of? Are all of these factors actually significant in identifying mobility relationship? So based on this experiment, the answer seems to be yes. So as you can see, that if they consider all three factors, the ROC curve is, the precision recall curve is more balanced compared to if they use frequency as the only factor, the personal factor as the only factor, or probably personal and global factor as the combination factor or such. So I guess this work is interesting because of two factors. They capture some simple yet effective factors in identifying mobility relationship, and they capture these factors in a precise manner. And that because of these two factors, they actually come up with something which outperforms the state-of-the-art works in a great manner. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is very good. Actually, I think it's very related because we just discussed about her work. I discussed her work when she was a student. Now she's a professor. She's doing some more work, you can see. And I think it's a very good field because there are so much data on. Actually, you can get the real Twitter data, geocoded Twitter data, pretty easily. And we do have one professor, Xiaowen Wang, in Department of Geography. He collected geocoded Twitter data for all the published tweets he can get. And he said there are quite a few terabytes data. So if you really want to study the real geocoded Twitter data, including both geolocation and text, you can discuss with him. I think actually we have David here representing his lab. Okay, thank you.